Welcome to Warp Core Breach, episode 57, Baiting the Romulans.
The Romulans have been baited, and now it's time to close the trap with the tachyon scanning.
The Romulans have secretly been involved in the Klingon Civil War, lending aid to the House of Duras in their battle against the forces of Gamma. A plan has been devised to draw them out in the open, and a tachyon detection grid has been set up that will reveal any cloaked ships that enter the sector. Can you draw out and defeat the Romulan ships? Can you, Craig? Can you?
I certainly intend to. If anything, I'm going to be the one drawn out, since I'm definitely looking to be the aggressor when I suit up for this OP, but that will come in time.
It's not like you asked me, so how many Romulan science vessels do you own? Because I need 10.
I've been thinking about how I can just break this OP because of some of the special rules that come up, and I've come up with some really mean ideas that I'm not gonna bring to the table just because they're absolutely cruel and unfun to play with or against.
Just look on Reddit.
No comment.
I saw you. I saw what you were doing.
I was hoping like maybe you just wouldn't notice.
There's so little that happens on the subreddit. I notice. You know what you threw out there. It's fun. It's silly, and I don't recommend anybody do it because it is truly getting into the pay-to-win mentality because you're buying 10 Romulan science vessels that serve no purpose other than to fly around, sensor echo, and accumulate points.
Yeah, it is. I'm actually going to even disagree and say the build isn't fun. It's fun to have built it, but trying to fly this would not be an enjoyable time just because you're spending like 10 minutes setting all your dials, another 10 minutes actually performing all 11 sensor echoes, and it just bogs down the game to the point where you're not actually playing and enjoying it. You're just collecting points so that you can write them down on your scorecard and try and claim the win.
You're stalling.
Exactly. It is kind of a stall build. Your whole goal is to just survive long enough for your points to pay off.
And I guess unless your opponent brought some kind of a rush build with then like Borg multi-kinetic neutronic mines where they could do an area of effect damage and then blow you up piece by piece.
I'm terrified of the Mirror Region's flagship.
Oh, that could do things too.
That would be very difficult to play around with, especially if it's got something clever like Car plus Drex. That gives it pretty high quality on every single attack.
Yeah, but even then, that's only 2 ships per round.
That's true, too, which is the nasty part about the idea of just building a bunch of science vessels and using the sensor echoes to claim a bunch of mission tokens and points, is that it's difficult to take them down. You still have to dedicate a shot to that. That's 6 defense dice, and you need to score at least 2 damage.
Yeah. That's why I was suggesting the mines, because they do an area of effect.
Mm-hmm. I'd considered building mines, and since you do actually need at least 1 Klingon card, you should probably try and make that cloaked mines at one point or another.
Yeah.
If you take down 1 science vessel, you actually make room for Admiral Liviana Chervonic, which can give your booster ship the ability to scan one of your ships every turn in order to get even more mission tokens, as well as a Klingon and Romulan cloaked mines for the 10 points you're losing on ditching the science vessel.
Oh no. Alright. Well, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. We haven't...
And off topic.
Yes, but that build's out there on Reddit. Go look it up.
It's a thought experiment. Don't do it.
Yeah, don't actually play it. But throwing maybe 1 science vessel in your build to collect some points, I don't think that's a terrible
Certainly not
idea.
a bad idea.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Little filler, that's fine. Don't make a fleet of it.
I honestly think you could get some pretty nice results from a science vessel with Gen Con and diplomacy.
Oh, sure.
Just as a quick run up, cancel one of their attacks. It's a nice cheap ship that you can fly up to cancel an attack entirely, and you're not even worried about it dying until at least turn 2 of combat. So you can also include an admiral like Mendak.
Sure. It could be a thing.
There's a lot of interesting setups that take advantage of just having one Romulan ship flying around. And as long as you're not dedicating too much to it, then I think you can get some decent returns.
Yeah. The ship's going, I'm going to die! Next round!
After I take you with me, or at least hold you in place.
Yeah. It's kind of funny.
It is. And I like diplomacy. I've been looking at it recently and thinking how I can squeeze it into my build just because, with last time I had a lot of attack cancellation, and I've been looking at different ways to do that other than just having upgrades waiting around to toss whenever I'm under fire.
Yeah, be a little more proactive about it.
Exactly. Make sure I'm picking the targets rather than just reacting to what's happening.
Yeah, put a little more control on it. So, special rules for this scenario.
Yes, it keeps the Klingon fleet of everyone must have at least one Klingon card in general in your fleet, and every ship with a Klingon card on it costs -2 as a non-stacking discount.
That's cool. We like that.
Additionally, though, we're bringing in the Romulan alliance, where each fleet must include at least one cloaking Romulan ship.
And by that it means cloak on the action bar, so the Praetus doesn't count.
Doesn't the Praetus have it on the action bar? I thought that its named ability was that it could perform it even without shields.
Oh, it does have it on the action bar.
Yeah, and that's the trick, because the Praetus actually works really well for this, because one of the other special rules is that any cloaking Romulan ship starts the game cloaked, so you never have to worry about taking a hull damage as your action when starting up a cloak with the Praetus.
Okay, you can't take the jazz call, and you can't bring that the Romulan cloaking device that makes you roll.
Correct.
1 point for Craig, no points for David.
After that, it gives you another 2-point discount to any Romulan ship with cloak on its action bar. Again, non-stacking, and will not stack with the Klingon discount either. So max a ship can have is -2. We're not getting crazy and -4, everybody.
That's a good thing.
Additionally, while these Romulan cloaking ships are cloaked, they can use the 1 or 2 bank maneuver templates whenever they're trying to sensor echo, or roll an extra defense during the roll defense dice step, admittedly taking an ox power every time they use either of these abilities.
Yeah, but maybe you don't care and you just want to see how many ox power you can get.
Also, in exchange for taking that ox power, you can collect a mission token. Since there are multiple ways for this to trigger, you're limited to 1 mission token per ship per turn. However, the tachyon detection grid that will be coming up is not limited as such, because there's only 1 possible mission token you can gain with it per turn, because it's an action.
Yes. And so the tachyon detection grid is a ship that has the scan action on its action bar, can target a cloaked ship within range 1 to 2 of your ship. If that ship's cloak token is green, flip it over to its red side. If that ship is a Romulan ship, it rolls -2 defense dice during the next combat phase. Place a scan token and an ox power token beside your ship. Place a mission token beside your ship cards when using this action. A ship that does not have the scan action on its action bar may use the scan action as its standard action, but must place an ox power token beside it when doing so.
So a clear scan focus, of course, having the tachyon detection grid being the theme for the evening. Being able to scan opposing cloaked Romulan ships is going to knock their defenses down a ton, reducing it by 2 for the entirety of the next combat phase, as well as giving you the -1 defense die because you actually have the scan token.
Yes. Now, what this is going to do is enable all kinds of fun scan combos.
Exactly. I'm expecting the Enterprise A to show up on a lot of lists, at least for anyone who has access to it, just because it synergizes so perfectly with the tachyon detection grid. Being able to cripple an opposing cloak ship's defenses and then get bonus offenses against that ship, that's pretty disgusting. And if you're not finding a way to throw on some continuous quality like Dimitri Valtain or Mr. Spock and additional phaser array, I don't know what you're doing with your time.
Not building to the scenario.
Not building to the optimization.
It is worth noting that there are some setup rules that we didn't want to clarify at the start, but we wanted to wait until we got through the whole special rules.
Especially introducing the Romulan alliance, because it's a little bit appropriate to the subject.
Yes. So if you have more than one Romulan ship in your fleet, all of your Romulan ships must be set up within range 1 of another Romulan ship.
So every single one of your Romulan ships needs to be a part of the group. You can't have two separate pods of Romulans to kind of flank off on different sides, at least at the start. You'll have to make those maneuvers once the game is underway.
And then also, all of a player's non-Romulan ships must be set up on one side or the other of that player's Romulan ships.
It's a very divisive little setup they've got there.
I'm not sure what it means by one side or the other. Like, is that base-to-base contact? Or is there a little wiggle room? Like,
I thought that meant left or right. Like, you can place your cloaked Romulan in the center, and now you can place your non-cloaked Romulans to the left or right of them, but they all have to be on the same side.
that makes sense.
That's my understanding of the rules.
That makes
it's
far
to make
more
sure that
sense.
all your Romulans are in one small little group together.
Yes.
No mixing them into your fleet.
I guess here's the thing, right? You can have every Romulan ship within range 1, but you could stagger them in a line.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess what it's saying then is all your non-Romulan ships have to be on one side of the Romulans. So all your Romulan ships are off on one side of your fleet.
Essentially, once you've set up your fleet, you should be able to draw a vertical line on the map and separate your Romulan ships from your non-Romulan ships.
There we go. That makes more sense to me. I'm a visual person.
No worries.
Vertical line makes sense. Math degree.
Exactly. Just scratch that out and you've got the perfect picture.
Okay. Maybe it's a little squiggly, but...
So, in this scenario, there's a lot of special rules working out. The tachyon detection grid makes it a little bit dicey to be a Romulan ship that is cloaked, because now someone can strip off half your cloak by a simple scan action, and these can compound on themselves, i.e. you can be hit with multiple different ships using the tachyon detection grid and lose every single one of your defense dice.
Yeah.
Additionally, losing your cloak, or at least flipping it over to the red side, means that if you aren't attacking that round, you're losing your cloak for no reason, and that can make it difficult to run very specific setups that involve character cards like Hakona, Tay, or any number of other cloaking reliant upgrades and abilities.
It can. One of the things that springs to my mind is that you can use tachyon detection grid on yourself early if you want to snail crawl for the extra points.
I was actually describing that when I was talking earlier about bringing along Admiral Liviana Chervonek, because she will actually allow a ship to cloak and then perform a sensor echo in the same action, meaning that whatever ship you're decloaking using your own tachyon detection grid can then immediately cloak and keep performing its Romulan 1 or 2 bank sensor echo in order to get its own mission token. That way every single ship in your fleet is churning out these 5-point mission tokens every single turn.
Okay.
You've got to take those green maneuvers to clear the Ox, but every ship can work together, since even if you're not running pure Romulan science vessels, you can also scan a ship that has a red cloak token next to it.
I like it.
There's no targeting restriction other than it being a cloaked ship in order to hit with your tachyon detection grid.
Yes. Another thing is, if someone has a stale cloak, meaning they cloaked on a previous turn, just because the cloak token's red doesn't mean that you can target lock them.
Correct. It doesn't actually advance the state at all. It doesn't change anything other than they are guaranteed to leave cloak for next round.
Right. They're still getting their bonus dice, whatever count that is.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that this messes with the rules of the game in a really weird way, and it feels super thematic to the final episode of the Klingon Civil War in Next Gen.
I would have to agree with you. I don't necessarily have the thematic aspect, but from my perspective, it's a super well-designed scenario because it's got aspects of risk and reward built into everything. If you're a Romulan ship, do you cloak and take these extra defense and these banking sensor echoes in order to gain points and gain maneuverability and gain defenses, but open yourself up to the tachyon grid? Or do you remain uncloaked and just kind of walk at your opponent with as a normal ship? There's also the question of, do you build with a lot of scanning ships in order to focus down their maneuverable Romulans, or do you build with a lot of Romulan ships in order to take advantage of these extra maneuvers? And if your opponent doesn't include anything with scans, then building all of Romulan ships is actually a really advantageous position, whereas before, when the opponent has the access to the scan and thus tachyon grid action, that makes it a lot worse to have built Romulans. So there's some risk reward even in fleet building, let alone on the table and the decisions you make there.
It's almost a rock, paper, scissor mechanic.
It is to a certain extent, and while that's bad on the aspect that you can have sort of auto-loss matchups, it's also really good because it incentivizes people to build a certain way, and making people build thematically or to tailor their builds to a specific scenario is a triumph for a scenario, in my opinion. I think that's why you have scenarios, is to force you to build a certain way and pose you a challenge that gets your creative juices flowing.
Well, but here's the thing. I don't know that you have an auto-loss matchup, even if you're the cloaker and you're up against a scanner, because you don't have to stay cloaked.
That's true.
You're at a disadvantage.
You don't have to walk into it. You do lose the utility of having cloak, because clearly if you were cloaking otherwise, that meant it was an advantage to you.
Yeah.
So you're losing that small advantage, but maybe that's not the worst thing, and you can still punch it out. Like, no one's trying to say a scimitar can't brawl with Federation ships.
No, in fact, it's quite often better when it's not cloaking.
It's pretty darn good at it, no matter how it is.
Yeah.
11 durability is difficult to punch through, especially with 2 defense dice.
You and I have both seen Todd do plenty with Romulans.
I don't want to talk about it, Dave.
You beat him last time.
I scored a win, so I'm not like all broken up, but I still have like post-traumatic stress disorder from all those scimitars.
All those scimitars just flying at you.
All the scimitars. When you're faced off against 3 scimitars and you've decided to build a certain faction only this round, that's when you just kind of have to sit down and rethink your life.
That faction wasn't Borg, and it wasn't fed.
It was fed, but it was just more thematic and synergistic.
It wasn't the right kind of fed.
It wasn't the right kind of fed.
So, as always, the game ends when one player is eliminated or when the time limit is called.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get plus 5 points for every mission token that's beside your ship cards. So I think more than anything, this game is going to come down to a point count at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could win even when you're dead.
I could very easily see that happening. Wait, hang on. If your opponent clears all of your ships, tables you completely, don't you still lose?
They get what they kill.
I understand that they will have less points than you, but even if they have less points, don't they still get the win if they kill all of your ships?
No.
Really?
It's always down to points.
I was under the impression that if you got tabled, then no matter what the points were at, even if you were ahead by a large margin, you still lost because all of your ships were destroyed. Is it not the case?
No, that just ends the game. And then you count points. So...
Really?
Unless I'm completely wrong, but I really don't see that. Because these are missions, and in the mission,
if you've gotten more fleet points, clearly you've done more of your mission than they have.
Right? Because the order of game end is the game ends when one player is eliminated. Mm-hmm. So, or time, but let's say time isn't a factor. One player's wiped off the board, game's over. Then, at the end of the game, each player gains plus 5 fleet points for every mission token that is beside their ship cards. Now, whoever has the most fleet points is the winner.
Okay, that's oof, ow. That makes the Romulan swarm even nastier, because unless your opponent has some way to generate tokens like that, it very quickly reaches a past the point of no return where they can't possibly score more points than you have.
Right. But if that's what one tournament is worth to you, then I start to question some of your life choices.
Pay attention to the fact that you are trading in on your goodwill.
Yeah. People may not want to play games with you anymore, and that probably isn't worth it.
Speaking of, you could argue that the fact that this scenario has a broken and abusable system like that is a failing of the scenario, and I would kind of agree with you, but at the same time, I also think it's on you and the people you play with to have some sort of gentleman's agreement that you're there to have fun and actually play the game and not abuse these to the extent that there is no competition.
Right. Putting 10 science vessels on the board is not playing this mission.
It's abusing the rules, and I don't think there's a way around that. So as long as you are comfortable with the people you play with and are happy with whatever you bring in, I think you'll be pretty good with this scenario. It has an issue, but as long as you're not unscrupulous about it, that won't be a problem.
I agree. It's our public service announcement.
Exactly. But otherwise, I really do enjoy the scenario. I think it gives you a lot to build with. I love the addition of the Romulan Alliance discount now because, of course, the Klingon fleet has been my baby this entire OP series. I love building ships that I couldn't otherwise build, and discounts allow you to do that.
Yeah, I think so.
I like squeezing 52 points onto the Queen Vessel Prime. I like squeezing a ton of upgrades and points onto shuttles and putting them on even bigger ships and making those ships unkillable. There's a lot you can do with these discounts, and I think that's one of my favorite things about the entire Klingon Civil War so far has been the different builds that have been enabled by the special rules.
Yeah, it's going to make us miss ship discounts here in another month.
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to be too broken up over having to try something other than Klingons finally, but missing out on -2 points per ship is sad.
Yeah, which is, hey, WizKids, if you're listening, figure out ways to give us little discounts here and there. They really
just
work.
Little things, not even like upgrades designed around being discounts, just like here or there, a few points. I like the one mirror crew that gives you +3 captain skills in action and discounts your talent.
Oh, yeah.
I know Richard uses it to set up that lure, fake messages, lure again combo because it knocks lure down to 4 points. But I like the card in general just because it's 2 points for a pretty decent ability and is pretty cool in that it gives you that discount and guides you towards a synergistic build.
Marlena Moreau.
Yeah, her.
Yeah. She came on the ISS Enterprise.
She's pretty handy. I like her with Car because higher count skill is fantastic.
Yeah, that works. So now we're going to go into a huge review because we have a resource, a prize pack, and a grand prize pack.
Yeah, there's kind of a lot to cover here.
Bear with us. Resource, all stop. 5 points, you get 5 mission tokens. Each round, during the activation phase, one ship in your fleet may disregard its chosen maneuver and not move. A ship that uses this ability must skip its perform action step. If you use the ability, remove 1 mission token from this card and place it back in the supply. Discard this card when there are no more mission tokens on this card.
I'm super conflicted because there's a few ways to look at this. There's the utility argument. How much utility are you going to get out of this? And the answer is, I don't know until I start flying. It all depends on the actual maneuvers that are made within the positions of the ship in any specific game. And if my opponent sees that I have all stop at the table with me, maybe they're thinking about that too and can use that against me. Then there's the argument of points value. For 5 points, you get 5 uses of this ability on any of your ships. However, if you're getting this as an upgrade, you can spend 3 points for the Romulan version of this, full stop, and get the same thing on one ship once.
And still get an action.
Yes, technically you do also get an action. I was thinking of the independent full stop, where you do not get the action for the same points cost. So let's talk about that independent one, just because it's a closer approximate. For 2 extra points, you're getting 4 extra uses of the ability, and you're not applying it to any one ship, you're spreading it across the fleet. That's actually pretty decent value if you're looking at it from that perspective.
But opportunity cost, elite talent versus resource.
Or taking all stop over another resource, like general orders.
Yeah.
So there's a few ways to look at it. Most of them aren't favorable, but for the sheer fact that it gives you 5 copies of a 3-point upgrade on all of your ships, maybe that's enough to make it worthwhile to you. I think that it is usable, because maneuverability options are always going to be at least usable. Every ship maneuvers, every ship flies, you've got to pick maneuvers for them somehow, and All Stop helps you manipulate that. But other than that, I can't see it being a particularly popular resource.
Okay, here's my biggest argument for it. It is the first multiple-use hard counter to lure, faked messages, and Thoughtmaker.
Oh, yeah, that is absolutely correct, and not something I'd considered. This actually completely stops in their tracks any sort of maneuver nonsense that you can be coming up against, because it gives you multiple uses and on all your ships.
And this might be the resource to take to Worlds. Nationals Worlds.
It's going to be I'm seriously guessing right now that it's going to be one of those situations where people who do bring it fare well against the maneuverability control teams and lose to people who didn't bring it. People who didn't bring it lose to the maneuverability control teams and beat the teams that did spend the extra resources on All Stop. And finally, the maneuver control teams, of course, beat the people who don't have All Stop and not the ones who do.
Yeah.
That sort of 3-way conflict of this. Of course, rock, paper, scissors again. This beats that, beats this.
Yeah. I guess the question is, how much do you value your maneuver control? How much does your venue play maneuver control?
Mm-hmm.
And if the answer is a fair bit, run this.
Yeah. I could see the argument being made that you might want Maxwell Forest instead, but that and All Stop together, now you're just getting crazy levels of maneuverability.
I'm more concerned about the lure faked messages 1-2 punch, because
I agree.
Faked messages flies you off the board, and Maxwell Forest don't bring you back from that.
True, but Maxwell Forest can be used to prevent the situation in the first place.
Yes.
They're both counters, and I think actually combining them might make it completely irrelevant and actually useful against non-maneuverability control teams.
Sure, because Forest will help get your fleet in position for where you can
get them in position, and you can use it to focus the maneuverability on one ship to get people an arc and just leave the rest with their arcs already in place.
Of course, if you're using All Stop, you're not getting an action on the ship that uses All Stop, but you can make it work.
It's crazy, impossible, and kind of just not even all that good, but I would love to see some sort of resource combination of All Stop and Condition Alert. I think if we saw those two together, maybe it would be good, but separately, they're just kind of mediocre for most situations.
I'd just like to be able to run 2 resources together.
And one of these days, you can make that a reality, Dave.
It'll be broken.
The campaign's there. It's waiting.
I know. That'll be fun.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean in, like, OP play.
Yeah.
And that'll
I think the overall consensus for All Stop is that it is usable. It's very good against some very nasty high-end combinations.
Yes.
But if you're not facing those specifically, then it's roughly mediocre.
It needs to be a tool in the toolbox, and people need to remember that it exists and not just completely discount it.
That's what kills me, is I would bring this thinking that I'm like super clever and going to beat everyone else because I've planned for every eventuality with all stop, and then just never use it because I don't remember I've even got it available to me.
Right. And that, or nobody will bring the maneuver control teams.
Yeah, the one time I bring all stop, everyone's decided, you know what, no, that build's old. Let's do something new.
Or everybody goes, you know what sounds good this week? Borg.
Ugh. Dave, no.
Or Colo builds. That's what's in today, Colo builds.
Colo has been showing up too much. I've started building against Colo. Me and Colo, we are.
All right. But that's the resource.
Yeah.
That's like the least of the reasons to go play this. I mean, the scenario's fun. The resource is a tool in the toolkit. But there's a prize pack.
There's a prize pack and a grand prize pack, and both of which have very worthwhile cards within. So let's move on to the IKS Toral. For 22 points, you're earning yourself a unique Brel-class ship. Of course, the Brel 4133, pretty much all white and green maneuver dial, and the standard Klingon action bar. You have the tech weapon double crew upgrade slots on the ship, which is nice, especially for tiny little Brels. But what really sells me on the ship is the named ability of when defending. During the roll defense dice ship, so long as you're not cloaked, you can roll 2 extra defense dice and place an aux power by your ship.
Yep.
That is incredible, especially on a hull 3 or lower ship, and especially on a Klingon ship.
Uh-huh. Core called. He said, yes, please.
The auxiliary power Worf called. He wants in on this. Ronald Moore called. He wants to show up with his buddy William T. Riker from the Hood, of course.
That's funny when you say it that way.
I like
Riker from the Hood.
Riker from the Hood is a very powerful card.
You don't want to mess with them.
Yeah, no. If you see Riker from the Hood on your opponent's ship, it's best not to mess with that.
Don't engage. Walk the other way.
Exactly. Pick another target. Hull 3 or less ship that opens it up to Ronald Moore and William T. Riker combos. It brings in the improved deflector screens. Because it's already taking aux power, you don't need to worry about the aux power from something like Captain Worf. There's a ton of defensive abilities you can stack onto this in order to make it really, really powerful. And so long as you don't mind losing out on your action economy, being able to shrug off a ton of hits through just tons and tons of extra defenses is a pretty worthwhile ability.
Yeah.
It's doubly so effective because almost all your maneuvers are white due to being a Brel class, whereas there's a lot of ships that can take aux to reduce power, but don't have as many white and green maneuvers.
The ISS Defiant.
Yeah, there's that.
The Taukir.
There's a few of them, aren't there? But
yeah.
The Toral is very, very good just for being so defensive and difficult to put damage on.
I think this is now my favorite Brel.
No, I'm going to give it to the Borg Brel still.
I think this is my favorite pure Klingon Brel.
I will grant you that.
You're right. The Borg Klingon Brel is fantastic.
It is better.
But, okay, this is my favorite 22-point Brel.
Yeah, there you go. That works. Don't need to worry about the 24, 26-point Brels.
The Chitang, though. That's a fun one.
The Chitang is really funky. And
but you have to be cloaked to get the reroll. That's tricky.
And there's also the one that does the come about after sensor echoing.
Which is cool, but that's Chang's Bird of Prey. That's technically not a Brel.
Oh, it's similar points.
It is a 22-point.
Oh, see?
Klingon ship.
I was going from memory, but
yeah, no, you're good.
Okay, so there's definitely some things to be done, and I do like this IKS Toral. So my recommendation is,
I think this one will see some use, and it's another ship where you want to run the Hegta, last month's prize ship, in your fleet to buff this.
Do you? I don't think you do. I think you just run this by itself and let it buff itself.
No, you bring the Hegta with Clark Terrell on it to get it.
If I'm already throwing 7
die.
defense dice, do I really need 8?
9.
Or 9 with Clark Terrell, you're correct. But I feel like 2 extra defense dice isn't worth the exchange of taking the, whatever class, the Cavort, isn't it?
It is a Cavort.
Yeah, the Cavort class, which loses the primary weapons value to the Vorcha class.
Okay, maybe you're in a challenge where you can't run any ships with primary weapon value higher than 4.
In that case, this is like perfect.
Okay.
This slots in just right, as well as the Hegta being the Cavort fits in nicely as well.
Okay, you do that, I'll run Nanclis and Meg charges, and we're good.
I am gonna just go into my corner and cry.
Just want to point out, there's a counter for everything right now.
There is a counter for everything.
Well,
but
just about.
You can stack the Toral pretty darn high.
You can.
With defense dice.
You can, and that's a great thing. I'm glad it's in the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's worthwhile. It's been a while since I've seen a prize ship where I wanted to go, yeah, let's do that, and that, and that, and hey, this is actually pretty good.
This reminds me a lot of the ISS Defiant.
Uh-huh.
In just a ton of ways, from the very similar stats, the similar upgrade bar, and the similar maneuvering. Not to mention the named ability is very similar in that it reduces damage for Aux power.
Sure. I still think I'd rather have the automatic cancel for an Aux rather than 2 extra defense dice.
I would say it depends on what you're doing.
Yeah, in a vacuum.
The Toral, I think, has the advantage of being a Klingon ship, having access to some of the Klingon stuff, as well as more white maneuvers and a native tech slot, which the ISS Defiant is missing out on, whereas the ISS Defiant has an extra defense die natively, as well as access to some mirror upgrades that are also pretty handy. Not to mention the named ability is slightly better.
Yeah, fair enough. It's kind of 601. They're two really useful
I just wanted
ships.
to call out that you should probably think of them in roughly the same power level, since most combinations that can be used with one can be used on the other as well.
Yes, that's worthwhile pointing out.
Mm-hmm. Even better, the idea that you could use them in the same fleet to accomplish multiples of the same essential ship.
That is fun.
Yeah, like, that's a good idea.
Which defensive juggernaut do you want to take on? Please.
You could choose the ISS Defiant, Bioship Omega, the IKS Toral. All these options and more could be yours if you could just hit anything without me reducing it to nothing.
Wait, you forgot the Equinox.
And the Equinox, you can hit me, and then I'll just heal it all back anyways. It's great. Yeah.
Okay, now for something completely different.
That's right.
I'm going to give you both captains.
Oh, lucky me. I get to start us off with Lursa, a 3-point, skill 4, unique Klingon captain with a talent slot. You may perform a sensor echo or a cloak action as a free action if your ship has that on its action bar. And then we've got Baator, which is a 3-point Klingon captain, 4 skill, with a talent slot, again, for mirror image of Lursa. This time, a friendly ship within range 1 to 2 of your ship may use the action or ability on your elite talent upgrade as if it were assigned to that ship. This is pretty handy as well. The real trick comes in Lursa and Baator's secondary effects, which is if the other is the captain of your ship, you may fill one of your crew upgrade slots with this card and gain +4 to your captain skill. Wow!
It's neat. It makes one of them a skill 8 captain.
That is pretty darn effective. Not only does that give you 2 elite talent slots on a skill 8 captain, but it also compounds their ability of being able to allow friendly ships range 1 to 2 to use either of your 2 talents, as well as being able to perform a sensor echo or cloak action every single round. These are super handy abilities. They work nicely on Romulan ships as well. There's a ton of really strong elite talent upgrades that can be used here. Cheat Death is nice because it allows your ship or whichever ship actually is taking the damage to survive. There's options that can allow you to use talents that could only be brought for Klingon ships and Klingon captains on other ships, such as the Day Is Ours or Enemy of the Empire.
Oh, yeah. Not fantastic upgrades, but...
Not fantastic, but it's a way that you can break some of the strictures placed on these things.
Sure.
And I think that in and of itself is worthwhile, as well as something I was trying to make work was putting the Picard maneuver on B'Etor in order to give that ability to one of my friendly ships, specifically for the next OP, yesterday's Enterprise, but I realized that it can't actually perform a 5 straight maneuver, so that wasn't actually an option.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. It's good thought.
Still, it's very interesting that they give you a captain that can get around the restrictions placed on some talents, and I think that's pretty darn handy. Not to mention, again, 2 talent slots with that ability is super effective, especially when you're getting free action economy every turn.
I like B'Etor more than Lursa, but it's not like I dislike either of these.
And to be honest, you probably should be using them together, since their abilities are very synergistic and skill 8's a fantastic number.
You should. I'm not entirely sure which one I'd run as the captain, though. I feel like I'd run Lursa as the captain only because there's more things that can mess with captains.
Are there more things that can mess with captains?
Sorry, there's more things that people run that can mess with captains.
Okay. I was going to say...
And then I'm thinking of the damage deck.
I actually prefer Lursa as the crewman, if that's the case, because I want Lursa to remain around giving me free action economy every turn, whereas B'Etor is probably there for opening shenanigans with discarding elite upgrades.
Oh, okay.
That's my opinion.
That's a better way to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
You've convinced me.
My other thing that I want to bring up is that these captains work extremely, just disgustingly well with Fleet Commander. Fleet Commander already gives you +1 captain skill, and if you can combine that with B'Etor or Lursa's +4 captain skill, you're going to be getting +5 captain skill to your primary captain. Not Lursa or B'Etor, whichever one of them is actually assigned to your ship.
Yeah, because it's to your captain's skill, not to this captain.
Correct. So you can actually get super, super high captain skills. Throw this on with Crewman Worf and Captain Martok, and you have captain skill 16 without an admiral.
That seems like overkill.
It seems like overkill because it's completely overkill, Dave.
I'll take my 13 Martok and then like my skill 8 Gowron.
I'm gonna take Khan Singh and Romulan Commander and just use your captain skill as my own.
But why Romulan Commander? It's terrible.
I know, but just because it specifically shuts down skill 16 Martok.
Well, okay, Khan just makes sense regardless.
Yeah, Khan's just fantastic everywhere. Romulan Commander is only ever useful if your opponent is getting into silly levels of captain skill, at which point it's actually quite useful.
Yeah. But I agree. Lursa or B'Etor with Fleet Commander is definitely worth the 5 points.
Mm-hmm. I would really like to see them combined with something like Calvin Hudson, because Calvin Hudson actually will reduce the cost of whichever one you bring as a crewman, as well as give you a discount on the 2 extra talent slots that you get.
But you have to have that on an independent ship, right?
I do. So I would be just canceling out the faction penalty, essentially.
Yeah. So you're not really gaining
2 talent slots that are discounted, and your skill 9, which is difficult for Calvin to hit.
Yeah, but what does the skill 9 Hudson really get you?
1 extra shield and 1 point off of every single upgrade you assign to the ship.
Okay.
You have to figure out a place to use it. I'm just saying it's a nice setup, especially because those discounted talents also are able to be used by not just yourself, but other ships around you.
Yeah, fair enough. It's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've laid the groundwork here, and now we can explore.
I don't think that it's it's going to be possible to cover all the possible uses of these two in one session just because of the broad expanse of combos that Beitor enables. I do like the option to get free action sensor echoes. Those are kind of difficult to come across, so you generally have to end up taking a free action of a quality action and then using your normal action on a sensor echo. So Lursa allowing you to sensor echo and have something like an admiral action or something afterwards is pretty handy in my opinion.
Yeah, I buy that. The first Klingon talent in this pack continues the streak of, terrible Klingon talents.
I feel really bad, Dave. I just took the super awesome Toral, Lursa, Beitor, awesome captains, and now it's your turn and you get Enemy of the Empire.
Yeah, it's all good. So Enemy of the Empire, 5-point unique talent. When attacking during the roll attack die step, you may discard this card to gain +1 attack die. If the defending ship is a Klingon ship or a ship with a Klingon captain or upgrade assigned to it, disable this card instead of discarding it.
I like how they made it unique, just in case you wanted to run 2 of them because they're so good.
I like how this card came out at the end of Klingon Civil War when everybody's done running Klingons.
Oh my god. This is like the perfect example of what don't do with a card. For 5 points, you're getting 2 points worth of attack dice for a single attack on a discard. On a discard, Dave.
Maybe a disable.
Maybe.
But that's almost worse, except for Duras. 1, this card needed to come out in the Trouble with Tribbles pack, because then we would have all had it for the Klingon Civil War.
Yeah, that way we could have had it in order to set it aside in our boxes.
2, this card needed to be 2 points.
This card, yeah. I'm going to bring that up later, too, because it just seems like they had some cool ideas of Enemy of the Empire could be a specific anti-Klingon card, except it's 5 points.
Also, by running it, you make yourself vulnerable to Enemy of the Empire. I can't even say that with a straight face.
Not only Enemy of the Empire, but the following elite talent as well.
Yeah, so I'm going to take that one, too.
Oh, please. This one's good, actually.
Yeah. Interrogation. Also 5 points and unique. When attacking during the roll attack dice step, you may discard this card to gain a number of attack dice equal to 1 plus the number of upgrades on the defending ship. Maximum of +3.
Meaning that if your opponent has 2 upgrades there, you will be rolling 3 attack dice extra.
Yeah. This upgrade may only be fielded by a Klingon captain assigned to a Klingon ship.
There you go again. That's the whole Klingon restriction, and Beitor, once again, there to help out. Spread the love.
Okay. I can understand the putting a maximum on here, but +3 just doesn't feel like the number.
I don't know. I like 3 for 5 points. 3 for 5 points is just about where I'm okay, and especially I'm probably going to take this with discount Martok on a super Klingon intensive build. So that's down to only like 4 points, and 4 points for 3 extra attack die I will take in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I guess. For a one-time use card.
Yeah, but it's a one-time use big alpha strike, and it hits a lot of things hard.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about Retaliation, the Zindi talent that's coming out on the Kalindra.
Mm-hmm.
And that does something similar to this. So,
yeah.
A standard +3. Either a 3 die attack or a +3 on your next attack for 5 points.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
And Klingons have more uses than Zindi.
Generally speaking.
I'll buy it. I guess the thing I don't love is that it's dependent on your opponent having upgrades.
You are absolutely right. And at the same time, I don't think that's too big of a deal. There's been, honestly, to my recollection, 0 games in the past 2 or 3 matches I've played, tournaments I've played in, where I actually faced an enemy that had less than 2 upgrades on every single ship.
Fair enough. I think there are some times you'll run into a ship or ships where your opponent has maybe one upgrade.
Or, your opponent might just have an entire fleet of Romulan science vessels. Then you've taken interrogation for nothing, and don't you feel silly?
You're still getting one die.
Once again, don't you feel silly? You just bought Enemy of the Empire.
Yeah. A more restricted version of it.
One of the things I feel important to bring up about interrogation is it doesn't bring a lot of the nasty stipulations like can only be used in the combat phase. Because I think this works nicely on the Klingon, once again, Borg, Brel class with Worf shenanigans. Being able to throw 8 attack dice on something.
Jeez, yeah.
Another nasty synergy I've noticed is that this can be very handy at shutting down stacking interface ships. If you use Mirror ROM to disable 2 of your opponent's interface generators, now you've disabled their defenses as well as given yourself extra attack, because if they have 2 interface generators, you're getting max bonus from interrogation.
Right, and disabled upgrades are still upgrades.
They still count, they're still there, they're still kosher, and that's just one more reason why ROM is the best card.
A very good card, yes.
Best card. Your
opponent still has to have stuff for him to be useful.
10 out of 10. Would buy every time. No, I just have a romance with ROM just because I've had troubles with interface generators in the past, and there's just so many places where ROM really comes in handy.
Oh, sure.
You find a lot of nasty tech out there these days, and just being able to say, you know what, I don't want to deal with that this turn is a big deal in my opinion.
I agree. Why don't you talk about Kolge?
Kolge. What can I say about Kolge? Kolge is really cool, very interesting, super in-depth, and utterly trash.
And that's because he isn't what he should be. Because
you can look at him.
Can't word things right.
But you can't understand him. The problem is Kolge is a 5-point unique crewman with the ability, action, discard this card to disable your captain card and place a battle station token beside your ship.
Period.
Yeah. You might be thinking, wow, that's an awful ability. 5 points to discard and disable my captain just for a single battle stations? That's rubbish. Surely I would never run this. And then you read the second part of his effect, which is while your captain card is disabled, your captain skill is 0, and your ship may perform the battle stations action as if it were on your action bar. And suddenly you're filled with hope. Oh, clearly I can just use this guy, disable my captain, and basically put the battle stations ability on my action bar. Great for Klingon ships who normally don't get battle stations, right? Wrong, because Kolge discards himself when he uses his ability, and his second effect is only inactive while he's on your ship. So if you've discarded him, he's no longer on your ship, and your captain's disabled, your captain skill is whatever it wants to be, and you don't have access to the battle station's action.
Yep. Now, if Kolge had come with a persistent token, that's the lavender purple border token that we've seen like once in the game, he would work because that token would go into play as soon as he performed his action.
Sort of like stalking mode.
Yeah. And then it would be there.
It would just be something that's happened.
For the entire game.
Yeah, while your captain's disabled, you are skill 0 and have a boost. Battle station's on your bar.
Exactly. And that's all they needed to do.
And that would be incredible because it would open up disabled caption shenanigans to a number of ships that would like to be able to run William T. Riker, once again, from the hood in order to get his extra defenses, but just kind of becomes unfeasible because you're not getting anything out of it.
Right. So now you're stuck with Kolge being a 5-point passive where you need some other means of disabling your captain so that you can get battle stations on your action bar. that's not worth it.
That's so not worth it. It's not even funny. I thought that he was going to be effective as just a way to disable your captain for specific shenanigans, but that's just not the case because of the poor wording on his effect here that makes him not work how you would think he would.
Right.
And that's the issue.
WizKids, write your cards more clearly, or tell us that this card works differently than you state that it works.
Yeah, give us a ruling to fix it, because I want this to be good, and I want to be able to run Hood Riker on ships that have more than 3 hull and still have a disabled captain to get the bonus from that.
Yep.
Putting this on a Romulan ship like the Valdor alongside Riker, that's 10 points, but now you've got 4 defense dice with 2 battle stations conversion and battle stations on a Romulan ship. That's pretty okay.
Yeah, that would work.
I like Kolj. I think that he does good things, and that there's a place for him if he worked like you thought he would, which he doesn't.
And to clear up confusion, I wish he worked like he should.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just arguing the actual grammar of it all.
The actual effect is worded such that it works a certain way. And you can't just ignore that because he's supposed to work differently.
Yeah. And the moment you try to say, well, I think this is how it was supposed to work, you're falling off a very slippery slope, and have fun bashing your head on a rock as you fall down.
My way of thinking about it is if you're not playing with the rules of the game, then you're not actually playing the game. You're just using the miniatures and figures to play your own game.
Which you're perfectly welcome to do.
Yeah, if that's what you want to do, knock yourself out. That's literally what house rules are, is changing the game to make it your own game because you want to enjoy it that way. But when everyone's playing the same game, it's best to not mess with that and just accept the rules as they are.
Don't try to pull it for OP play.
Finally, we get the last upgrade for the pack, and it's generic. What do we have here?
Aft shields, 4-point tech. If you are not cloaked and defending against an attack from a ship that is not in your forward firing arc, during the compare results step, you may discard this card to cancel up to 2 of the attacking ship's hit or crit results. If you do so, place an Ox Power token beside your ship. No ship may be equipped with more than 1 Aft Shields upgrade. It's 4 points for 2 durability.
Never an awful idea. It does require you're being attacked from outside of your forward firing arc, and that you not be cloaked at the time, so it's kind of difficult to convincingly proc, and it does give you an Ox Power, but I think it's almost definitely better than the generic tech we had with the last pack that gave you 2 shields back in exchange for 2 Ox Power.
Yeah. I don't hate this on the Toral.
Yeah, especially because you're not going to be cloaked all the time, and because you have Ox Power, you can't perform red maneuvers. You're probably going to be out of arc every few turns or so. And so Aft Shields is perfect for the Toral.
I wish it didn't have the stipulation of out of arc, but it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. You're hardly going to be using your aft shields to block a shot coming at you directly.
Yeah. So
It's a pretty nothing upgrade. It's 2 points of durability for 2 points. You take an Ox for it, and it's got a little bit of restriction, but it is in the end a perfectly efficient trade of points for durability. So if you just need that on one ship that you're particularly worried about, throw it on there.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to see a lot of play.
Honestly, I actually kind of like this to throw on a Scout Cube. Normally I would take Data Node as my tech for a Scout Cube, using Quark to bring on improved deflector screens, but Aft Shields isn't bad either. Especially because you can use it when you know you're going to lose your shields, rather than just kind of throwing it out there every time like you would with Data Node.
I'm not sure it works on a Scout Cube. Because it has no forward arc.
Yeah, and so naturally you can't be in its forward firing arc. It's similar to how you can
But you can't be outside of it either. There's really messy rulings with Borg and forward arc that Worf doesn't even agree with itself on.
Okay.
And that's the simplest way to put it without getting way too convoluted.
I'm going to take your word for it and just stick with Data Node. It's an in-faction upgrade, and I think it works just as well. So
ask your TO how this would work on a Borg Scout Cube, because we're not qualified to answer it, and very rarely do I say that.
There you go. If Dave doesn't want to rule on something, it's probably best to just take it instance by instance.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to do it. Okay, so that's the Toral.
A lot of really good cards.
It's a pretty good prize pack.
I think that it's one of the most densely good packs we've seen in quite a while. I like the ship. I like the captain, plural. I like interrogation. I want to like Kolge. I like Kolge's spirit.
Be great.
Make Kolge great again, Dave.
He just needs to be reworded.
Yeah, if they release a ruling or something on Kolge, I suddenly like him a ton for Riker shenanigans, because it's kind of difficult to disable your captain, and if you're getting an advantage by throwing the battle stations onto your ship as well, then that could be something you want to build with.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, didn't you say that you could spend drone tokens while you have your captain disabled? Not for the ability, but for the ability of like the ship and tech.
There's some Worf ruling somewhere about that.
Okay, because one of my ideas was to actually put this on the Dominion Borg Galler class in order to give it battle stations, as well as disable some Borg captain with drone tokens, so that you can use the ship's named ability every turn to set your defense dice on the evade phase. Gives you a ton of extra durability as well as battle stations on the ship, which you would normally have a hard time coming across.
So if a Borg captain is flipped face down, they can use their drone tokens. That was based on a Q scenario.
Okay.
I mean, that seems like if it's disabled.
Yeah, I can see the similarity there. But that was just an interesting setup that I thought you could do with Kolge, and there's a ton of them out there. He has a lot of uses. Generally, you want to put him on something with 2 crew slots, so you can bring along William T. Riker and get 2 extra defense dice and 2 battle stations conversions. But you can run him anywhere, honestly.
Yeah.
There you go. That's Kolge.
There's good versatility.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a grand prize pack.
Yes. Sela's Warbird.
And a slight opportunity missed to make this a better D'Deridex.
It's a standard D'Deridex. I know how much you were hoping, but
I wanted a D'Deridex advanced.
Sometimes WizKids lets us down.
It would have been a 4-2-6-5.
I still really want this prize pack for some of the things within it, but it is...
Oh, I'm sure. But a 4 attack die D'Deridex, you put the mirror upgrade on it, it's 5.
There you go. It's like a Borg.
It would have been like the assimilated one, while just being a Romulan.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds better in theory, but...
Maybe not the brightest idea. Regardless, Sela's Warbird...
At least 4 attack dice.
Very, very good ship, in my opinion, because of the named ability specifically, as well as the fact that the upgrade bar, being tech, weapon, crew, is basically perfect for Romulans. 2 tech slots on a Romulan ship, yes please. 1 weapon slot so I can Sakona on Type 8s, as well as the mirror upgrade, and an extra crew slot that I can play around with.
Sure. I don't know. There's times where I like 2 weapon slots, because then you get charging weapons in there.
Yeah, you can throw charging weapons on for practically free, which is nice if you've got battle stations that you're doing. But one of my favorite ideas generally is to use a high skill captain and Romulan tactical officer in order to turn my target locks into effectively super high quality.
Yeah. I also like disruptor beams.
Disruptor beams rather than the primary weapons?
Yeah.
I could see that. It's a strong upgrade. I just dislike that I have to dedicate action economy to that. And because of Sela's Warbird's named ability, which I'll talk about, I actually want to have my action available for this ship.
Sure.
Speaking of, the Warbird's ability is that during the activation phase, if you are cloaked and you perform the sensor echo action, you may flip your cloak token over to its red side in order to perform an additional sensor echo action as a free action. This is just crazy maneuverability. That's almost a sensor echo with a 5 template. That's how far of a jump that is.
Yeah, that a 5 and like a 1 forward.
Yeah, you can also make some lateral headway with it as well, just because you can move yourself up and back. It would have been super cool to try out for this OP, given that you could be using banks with those, but sadly, it won't be available until after the OP's gone.
You would have become Borg. You could have spun.
Exactly. You could do like a 3-point turn.
Yeah. Do a 1 bank to the left and then a 1 bank to the right.
Mm-hmm.
And you end up facing where you started.
Yeah, so Sela's Warbird, super cool in that respect. Really nice named ability. I love the action bar for Romulan Dideridex. I think it's the upgrade bar I've been looking for in a Dideridex.
Sure.
That and the Hakona, or not the Hakona, there's the Kazara, I think is pretty good. Tech, weapon, crew.
Get you all the Romulan security officers you want.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, just a pretty decent ship. It's a Dideridex, so you're going to need some upgrades in order to make it worthwhile, but you can make it worthwhile.
You can.
Now, what would Sela's Warbird be without Sela herself, Dave?
Well, yeah, an Admiral Captain Sela.
Admiral Captain Sela? Is that what that is?
Yeah, you gotta read the text.
Oh my god, that's even better than I was expecting.
So she's a 7 skill captain, and I'm going to guess a +1 admiral, but maybe a +2?
Yeah, I'm gonna guess +1, like the William T. Riker from the Mirror faction.
Yeah. Elite talent, 4 points. Action. When defending this round, the attacking ship cannot benefit from or spend a scan token that is beside it, nor can that ship spend a battle station token that is beside it against your ship. Goodbye, Enterprise A.
Goodbye, Enterprise A. Goodbye, pretty much all quality, because Sela's a Romulan. What do Romulans do? Romulans cloak. What does cloaking prevent? Oh, cloaking prevents target locks, so you can't spend target locks. Now you can't spend scan tokens, and you can't spend battle stations. What is left to you, man?
The reroll tactical drone.
There you go. I'll admit there are actually quite a few good reroll ability captains and crewmen out there, but it's a difficult thing to do to land quality on Sela, because she cancels out half of the quality you have available to you, with scans and battle stations effectively being useless.
She does. And that's really cool.
You no longer get your Spock conversion. Dimitri Valtain's sitting there. Bohica still works, but you're not getting your battle stations to be hits anytime soon. It's just a really solid way to mess with your opponent's attack quality, because battle station conversions are some of the most important abilities in the game, and taking that away from your opponent, at least probably taking that away from your opponent, is really, really handy.
Yeah, this is one of those abilities that's like, okay, this is really good.
Incredible.
How can we make it work? How can we abuse it? What can be done with it? And the answer is, I don't need to figure it out. It's just plug and play.
Plug and play, and when you do eventually figure it out, it becomes that much better because it's actually working in a system that it is designed for.
Yeah, and that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. I think that, of course, you have some possibilities to combine with captains that draw in fire, such as Core or Colo, as you mentioned earlier. But you also have the ability to just turn one ship into a defensive nightmare for your opponent. I'm thinking throw monotanium armor on something and just watch your opponent cry. Every single turn they're trying to land quality on you, and you're just slipping away. You don't even need to use Romulans or cloaking ships. Monotanium armor is a generic tech upgrade that can go on any ship practically, and with Sela, it shuts down your opponent's attack quality.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Isn't it?
That is absolutely fantastic.
I thought so too. It's just, it takes away all of your opponent's options. They have abilities that any sort of effects that are giving them rerolls that aren't reliant on scans still work, but that's, your opponent needs to know that Sela is a thing and kind of be planning against it.
No, you bring Deanna Troi in your fleet, so you disable one of their captains.
Oh my, you're a bad person, Dave.
And you also bring Madred, so you discard another one of their captains. you can make it so your opponent will never get quality.
That is mean.
Or rarely get quality.
It's possible to really shut your opponent out.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that makes Sela incredible. Honestly, I do.
She may now be one of the best admirals in the game.
I guarantee you she's one of the best Klingon captains in the game.
Romulan?
Irregardless, yes. I'm looking ahead to the Klingon-Romulan alliance and getting my words mixed up. But yeah, Sela is a very effective captain. Taking away quality is, generally speaking, better than adding defenses, just because quality is such an effective option in the way Attack Wing is set out.
Yeah.
So
we've needed this for a while.
We kind of have. I think that this is going to make it viable to run a single cloak ship again. Just have one cloaks, because that one isn't going to get blasted to Kingdom Come as badly anymore, and now you can run a fleet alongside it. That's still pretty effective.
You know what I hate, though? This is on a prize pack.
It's on a grand prize pack, Dave. This is killing me. This is like the Enterprise A all over again. One just like really standout card that's super awesome and everyone wants.
At least it's unique.
That's true. You're never going to need more than one Sela for your fleet.
There's only one generic card in this pack, so this isn't a case of Assimilation Target Prime where there were generic cards
that were just really good.
Multiples. Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway, so you get the other captain, which
this is payback. Now, let me introduce to you Movar. He's a 3.5 skill, unique Romulan captain that grants you the ability, during the Gather Forces steps, you may switch one of your crew, tech, or weapon upgrade slots for a crew, tech, weapon, or talent upgrade slot. Blech. Just, ugh. This captain makes me queasy with how bad it is. This is strictly worse than Calvin Hudson on anything that isn't Romulan. And
I agree with you there.
And is just plain bad for most things that, unless you're already using Jean-Luc Picard someplace.
Yes.
Let's not swap one of these. Let's just give me a whole new slot. I understand that he can be used to give the Valdor a tech slot. But other than
Which is quite useful. But so can Captain Valdor.
Yeah, but I think he actually does it better than Valdor because he costs 3 rather than Valdor's 4. And if you're taking Valdor, you're not using his named ability to discard the tech. You just want the tech.
Fair enough.
So I don't like Movar. You could have made the argument that Movar allows you to get a talent slot, whereas Calvin Hudson does not, until you realize that there's plenty of 3-cost, 5-skill captains out there with just a native talent slot, like the fantastic Salatrell or Liviana Chervonik, both Romulans.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the problem.
Nothing he does is good in comparison to characters that are already in the game.
Wait, I got it. He's Garib fodder. He's the new captain you can put under Garib. He's free, and he gives Garib 5 skill.
Yeah, if you, again, didn't use any of the other captains that are 3 and have 5 skill.
But maybe you want them for your
Maybe you want all of them, Craig. Maybe you're using all the Romulan captains.
Hey, I used to put Salatrell in my fleet.
Let me actually count. How many 5-skill, cost 3 Romulan captains are there that you would have to run through before you needed him? You've got Rekar, Velal, Viceroy, Salatrell, Valdor, Liviana Chervonik, and that's it. That's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, there's also Taurus. No, Taurus is 1 extra cost. So 6 different captains you would have to go through before Movar is necessary. Completely bad card. Don't ever run this unless you literally just want the tech slot for the Valdor. That's the only place it's useful. Because anywhere else, anything that's not a Romulan ship, you use Calvin Hudson, and anything that is a Romulan ship, you probably still use Calvin Hudson. Not still use Calvin Hudson. Anything that is a Romulan ship, you probably just bring a captain that gives you that slot anyways.
Yeah. Well, they had to put something bad in the pack, right?
You say that. We haven't finished.
So Reverse Course is a talent.
Reverse Course is a talent that we've seen before and is fantastic. It is a reprint of Full Reverse. Super
During
good.
the activation phase, you may disregard your chosen maneuver and execute a full astern maneuver with a speed of 1 or 2 instead. 5 points, unique. I'm good!
No, I'm not. It's bad. It's awful. It's trash. Throw it away. God, this makes me so mad.
You hide it under Shinzon.
Oh, yeah, it's only good for Shinzon because this is a 5-point version of the independent elite talent Full Reverse.
2 point.
This is a 5-point of a 2-point. It's literally a verbatim remake. It's only useful for Shinzon ever.
Yeah, right. But I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I'm fine putting this under Shinzon.
I don't actually like Shinzon too much personally, so I don't think of him too often when building. So yes, this is a Shinzon talent, but oh my god, just thinking of the fact that they completely just remade a card for 3 extra points, just ow. Especially one that I use frequently because of how good it is. So seeing it come back as a 5-point is a bit shocking and kind of insulting.
It's like the Romulan tax, but it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. It's literally more than twice the cost of its exact copy.
The independent version is a 1 or 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't get it. It's the same thing, but more. More costly, that is. And speaking of more costly, I want to talk about Klingon Romulan Alliance. And I actually want to talk about this because it makes me happy and it makes me mad at the same time.
Go for it.
Klingon Romulan Alliance is a 4-point elite talent unique. If your ship is within range 1 to 2 of a friendly Klingon or Romulan ship during the modified defense dice step, you may discard this card to reroll any number of your defense dice. This card may only be fielded by a Klingon or Romulan captain assigned to a Klingon or Romulan ship. It is important to note that none of these necessarily have to match, so you could be a Klingon on a Romulan ship next to a Klingon, or next to a Romulan, or however you want to break that down. But it's just a kind of fancy tech card that allows you to re-roll your defense dice one time if you've built a certain way and have Klingons and Romulans involved. Thinking of it like that, you would think that, oh, surely this is something that we've gotten before. Maybe it'll give us a discount in order to make up for the super restrictive text on it that keeps you from using it everywhere, because this is just a strictly worse version of the elite talent Starfleet Intelligence from the Mirror faction, which is when attacking or defending, reroll any number of your attack or defense dice for 3 points, or Crewman Roulot, who is the same, again, reroll any of your attack or defense dice, and on a 3-point crew, of course, whereas Klingon Romulan Alliance is 4 points to only reroll defense dice in a very specific situation. And again, a discard is the same cost as all the others. So instead of reducing the price, when they made this effect more specific, they increased the price. On a 2-point upgrade, I could see this being effective because rolling 6 or 7 defense dice as a Romulan with a reroll is actually really decent defenses. But because they actually increased the price over other upgrades that are strictly better, as in can be used for more than just rerolls and have no limitations, this is a joke.
Yeah, they made a subset of a card and they supersized the cost.
Like, this could have been a really cool card that incentivizes a specific type of build and gives you an advantage for building so narrowly. That's good design. That's something I want to see in an upgrade. And Klingon Romulan Alliance provides that, but in such a way that it can never possibly be used just because it's less efficient than generic options. You should never be building specific support that's worse than generic options. That's like the exact opposite of how design is supposed to work. You want something that's specifically catering to your ship to be better. Whereas this Klingon Romulan Alliance is strictly worse. There's just no possible situation where it would be better than either Starfleet Intelligence or Roulot, because both of those are 3-point upgrades.
I agree.
It makes me mad because it could have been great. This could have been a really fun, usable card if it was 2 points, and they insisted on making it 4 points, so that's unusable.
I mean, they could have even priced it at 3 points, and you say, well, those cards would cost us 4 if they were on a Romulan.
It makes it useful for Romulans specifically. It doesn't help Klingons at all, and I think putting out a 2-cost makes Romulans love it, and you could actually see some migration towards having a Klingon-Romulan alliance because of how useful 2 points for a full reroll on 7 defense dice is. That's really good.
Another thing that makes me mad, taking your costing out of the picture, they missed the boat on dual factioning.
Absolutely. This is the Klingon-Romulan alliance. This isn't the Romulan alliance.
Where's the Klingon faction symbol?
We know
that
it can be
irks
done.
me.
We have multiple faction cards already existing in the game. Why would they not do that for the Klingon-Romulan alliance?
You know what? Make it a 3-point card. Put Klingon and Romulan on this card. And I think everybody's okay with it. Maybe not in love with it, but okay with it. If it was dual faction and if it was 3 points, you would still have your concerns, but you wouldn't be grumbling.
I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't
call
call it a mistake, and I wouldn't think that it's part of what's wrong with the game right now. Because it's currently built to the point where it's literally never usable. And I hate that they did that, because it was a really unique and cool opportunity to add something to the game, and they chose not to. And that makes me sad, because I thought it would be cool. I think it's a cool idea to incentivize defensive Klingon-Romulan alliances.
I agree. And they threw their opportunity away. So
it happens. It
does.
Just makes me mad, because
right.
I wanted it to be good, and I see the potential there. I want that. Props to them for giving me something that I can see that much potential in, and they lose some of that credit for then not following through. That's my opinion on the subject.
All right. The crew. Tokoth. 2-point, unique, action. Discard this card to remove up to 2 disabled upgrade tokens from your other upgrades. Sure.
Yeah, I'm not against it. I don't have any particular reason to run it, but giving a sort of disable clearing effect to Romulans is nice. I don't think they need it for anything. Do Romulans do a lot of disabling? I know they've got charging weapons that I've been getting on lately, but
I think it's some of the it's a weapon clearer. If nothing else.
Yeah, it can clear weapons. I'm sure there's a few cloaking or tech upgrades that disable themselves somewhere.
Well, and it's what you were talking about, using ROM to clear up.
Oh, yeah. No, Tokoth is the anti-ROM.
Sure. I don't know that you run him just to protect against ROM, but if you have some reason that you're disabling things and you bring Tokoth and then somebody disables more of your things, then you're really glad you have Tokoth around.
I'm wondering if it might be better to build one of the 4-point talents that removes all the disabled upgrade tokens from your ship at the start of the planning phase instead, just because it doesn't require an action and it's not limited to only 2. But at the same time, how many times are you going to be removing 3 or more disabled upgrade tokens? And how many of those are going to be on Romulan ships where you're actually taking Tokoth?
Not many.
So I think it's actually a pretty decent upgrade. You can throw it in a few places and make some cool gimmicks, and it's just otherwise pretty decently usable. Not great, not awful, but it's there, and it allows for gimmicks in certain positions.
Worst case, put Tokoth on a terrorist build and have 1 more crew to throw out the air.
I don't know. Romulans have like 4 1-cost crewmen.
Yes, but how many of them have versatility after you get past Tay?
Versatility or utility? Because they all have utility.
Okay. Have utility after Tay.
Patak isn't bad. 1 point for a free attack die.
Okay, fine.
Poker and Param are bad, I'll agree.
Only because that's how the game's designed. But, alright, Craig, bring us home!
Finally, we have a 4-point, non-unique tech upgrade for the Romulans. It is Tachyon Pulse. getting into the theme of that tachyon grid for the Klingon Civil War, all these baited Romulans everywhere. When defending, during the roll defense dice ship, you may disable this card to roll an extra defense die, plus 2 extra defense die if the attacking ship has a scan token beside it. I assume that means plus 2 defense die total, rather than plus 2 to the 1. Okay. So basically, you can disable this 4-point upgrade to roll an extra defense die and ignore scan token. That's it. 4 points for a maximum of 2 defense dice. Already kind of bad. It is a disable, so you can use this with Tokoth and something like, again, charging weapons or another disable card out there. But I don't think this really gives me enough to want to play with it.
No. This should be like a 2-point card max.
I think 2-point cards would be just about right. It kind of reminds me of Dispersion Field or some of the other upgrades out there that negate scan tokens while also providing a little bit extra, which is why it also disables itself. So I could see that being a roughly spot-on point cost, 2 points. But at 4 points, you're only maximum getting 2 defense dice out of this, and only ever once. So that's just kind of a bad trade-off. If you're spending 4 points on something, bring William T. Riker, bring Amada Khan, and get those persistently rather than just on disables.
Right. So this whole pack feels like there's a Romulan tax. Aside from Sela and Tokoth.
Yeah. Just seems like they took something, they increased the cost of it, and they slapped the Romulan symbol on it, as well as threw in a bit of extra stuff.
Or if it's not the Romulan tax, it's the grand prize tax.
That's probably more appropriate, and I am glad they did that, because heavily sought-after prize packs are not good for the game. They're not good for local scenes. They're not good for the community in general. There's just no advantage to the players for having rare prize packs other than the winners can sell them for high amounts of money.
Yeah, which is not great.
Yeah, I don't really want to subsidize the winners exactly.
No, because winners are going to win anyways, and
they're going to play anyways because they enjoy winning the game.
Yeah. That's a different show.
Yeah. That's part of the logistics of running any sort of competitive game, but it is nice to see that Sela's Warbird doesn't have a ton of really important upgrades or cards or captains on it. Sela herself, kind of a big deal. I think that having her at your disposal is really, really useful. I know she shuts down like half the builds I come up with, personally.
Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah, no, it's nice to have a captain that just says, you can't play normally against me. I like that. I think that's a worthwhile thing to have in the game, because it changes up so that you can't just build the same old combos and upgrades into your fleet every single time.
Uh-huh. And her Warbird changes the way maneuvering
I
works,
think
that's cool too.
The ability to, in 2 turns, fly your way across the entire board using sensor echoes is pretty snazzy. If you look at it, you could actually even... Yeah, you could use Admiral Liviana Travanik to do this every single turn. She will cloak you, allow you to perform your sensor echo. Now you flip that cloak token that you just gained over to its red side and perform your second sensor echo.
I had a nasty thought.
What's that?
You can set the Warbird up on an angle,
mm-hmm.
and then you can fly forward and sensor echo and sensor echo.
Oh, what if instead you went, you were angled straight, took a 3 left-hand bank, and then did your double sensor echo? I think that actually gets you the highest distance.
Sure, yeah, because the banks
are slightly longer because of the angle.
Yeah.
So I think that would actually be really cool to see how far you could get with that. Admittedly, I don't know if I necessarily want my Dideridex just sitting there eating fire, but it's definitely a possibility.
But you're also kind of in a corner.
And it is important to remember you have to have some sort of free cloak action available to you if you want to do that, because you can't start the game cloaked in any other scenario other than this one.
That's what Tay is
true.
for.
1 point crew upgrade, telling you. Romulans are
That's the other thing. I feel like this pack would have been better if we had it for this scenario.
Yeah, and I get why they did that too, because it's clearly meant for this scenario. This is where it showed up and where it was cool, and then that's why they've got it here presented before us as part of the game. But it is sad that you can't bring the prize pack to the OP itself, because it is relevant to the OP.
Yeah.
I like Sela's Warbird. I especially like the Toral. I'm not a fan of some of the upgrades on the Warbird, and of course some of the upgrades on the Toral, but I think these are both really solid packs that I'm going to want access to in the future.
Ooh, me too. Sinon.
Oh yeah,
the Klingon crew.
You absolutely could do that. It is May, so you could only use it once per turn, but you could still add even more to that.
Don't care.
Maybe something like
Still
Chang,
worth it.
Getting a free extra sensor echo before your double sensor echo.
Okay, this is how to make Sela's Warbird just utterly.
Oh, even better, you could actually perform the free sensor echo off of Chang's sensor echo, because it is during the activation phase. This is. Yeah. I'm telling you, there's fun things to be done with Sela's Warbird. I like it. It's a good card.
Okay. There we go.
And I think that is the kind of the consensus here, is that these are good cards. These are good ships. There's some good setups. Lursa and B'Etor invite a lot of fun stuff. Interrogation's decent. Kolj is regrettable, I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
We all understand how that works. Sela's Warbird and Sela are just top notch, and even Tokath is pretty usable.
Uh-huh. And elite talents.
I like Interrogation.
Yeah. The other three
are just sad. You were right that reverse course is like the perfect niche Shinzon thing, because I consider it strictly better than full stop. But it's sad to see that's the only place it goes.
Well, I don't know. There are times where stopping is more beneficial.
There are times. I just very rarely run into them.
Maybe you run both.
Maybe you run both. Oh, God. Oh.
I mean, you can only use one.
I know.
So
it's just...
pick your moment.
I hate getting caught out by my opponent revealing maneuverability. And so the idea of both behind Shinzon is like, oh, I wonder how best to get the perfect angle. Exactly. But yeah.
I want to mess with
good packs, good setups, and a fun OP. It leaves itself open to abuse, but otherwise is really nice and has a lot to build with, and that's what I want from an OP. So I'm very happy with this whole setup in general.
All right.
Any closing words, Dave?
Well, I think this has potential to be the best of the Klingon Civil War.
Absolutely.
And Attack on Gowron was fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
So that's saying something.
I'm telling you guys, if you haven't done it already, try a tactical cube. Thank me later.
Okay. But that's going to wrap it up for us. We'll be back next month with Yesterday's Enterprise.
Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, have a great day, everybody.
Warp Core Breach is produced by Nick Norris and David Montgomery, with additional content from our contributors. Our computer is voiced by Corinne Donnelly.
Warp Core Breach is not endorsed, sponsored, or affiliated with CBS Studios Incorporated or the Star Trek franchise. All Star Trek trademarks and logos are owned by CBS Studios Incorporated.
All sound files are used under Creative Commons 3.0 by attribution. For specifics, please visit our Facebook page by searching Warp Core Breach Podcast. If you want to contribute to the show, let us know on the Facebook page, or you can email us at warpcorebreachpodcast@gmail.com.